Hi, everyone. How are we feeling today? We are the last talk of the day, so we really appreciate your patience. And I know right after us, there's an AI pitch. I'm just waiting for the clicker. Who's controlling the slides?
And now you are. Perfect. All right, sorry about that.
Thank you. Oh. Perfect. So let's go back for a second. So by show of hands, who here is a startup founder? Who has an AI startup right now? Show of hands. Okay, pretty good number. Who here is an investor? Awesome. Who is interested in building an AI startup or a tech startup? Or learning about it, or working at a startup? Who's interested in technology? Okay, good. Perfect. So you're my audience. So you probably heard today from all of our speakers, and you're probably already aware that AI is transforming life as we know it. Every sector, every industry, every facet of our daily lives is changing. But more than anything, AI is transforming the potential of businesses. Not only in terms of operations or internal efficiency, but what we can achieve as business owners. And we need a new way of doing business. Oh no. Okay. This was my slide introducing me. So I'll just introduce myself very quickly. Hi, my name is Nabila Elassar. I'm the founder of Impact Genius and the AI for Good Institute. I'm the co-president of Stanford Entrepreneurs. I have over 10 years of experience across different industries: technology, business, entrepreneurship, nonprofit, the United Nations, and a little bit more. And the one defining or uniting element of my experience is that I've been chasing impact my whole life. So after graduating with a finance degree, I decided to pivot and work with the United Nations to hold international conferences at UN HQ in New York and Geneva and worldwide to engage young people with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and to help them learn how diplomacy plays out in real life and how to pursue careers of impact when they graduate. After doing that for a few years, I came to Stanford to do a master's degree in education, policy, and leadership studies, and then pivoted to work at Microsoft for 4 years. At Microsoft, I worked at the US education business and moved up to be a senior PMM in global EDU strategy in Corp HQ. And there I learned how a large tech company balances impact and profitability in different ways across different projects, from business planning to product development, product design, go-to-market strategy, and more. The slides are not working. It doesn't matter. So on this slide, we were supposed to say that there are endless opportunities in AI for good for you. So typically, when you think about AI for good, which is using AI to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals, you think about nonprofits, or for example, governments adopting AI for good solutions, or potentially corporations. But you don't often think about startups. And so what is an AI for good startup? An AI for good startup is a startup that balances exponential returns with impact, meaning 10x to 40x growth and increase in financial value and returns over time with impact. And there are 4 key pillars that define an AI for good startup. Impact strategy, meaning direct link to one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. Ethical AI development, which means, Dr. Rushdi will talk about this in a second, but it means thinking about ethical AI at every stage of your AI development cycle. Human-centered design, which means thinking not only about the impact of your product on your users or the direct decision makers, but also the ecosystem that surrounds them and society as a whole and humanity at large. An example of that is if you're building, for instance, an AI agent, which is going to help the business automate marketing processes. Have you also thought about the marketing staff that are going to be laid off as a result of this tool? And is it possible for you to integrate that population in your product design? Meaning instead of building the product just for the business owner, also, for example, thinking about how to augment the potential or augment human capabilities of marketing staff So have marketing staff also use it to become consultants. That makes the process somewhat more complicated, but it may actually lead to your business's success on the long run. And of course, finally, a profitability plan. This is another slide talking about what AI for good startups benchmarking looks like. So there are 3 tiers when you think about impact strategy for your AI startup. So think about these as concentric circles, right? The circle right in the middle is the industry where your product is the impact. A great example of that is if your product is in education or healthcare or sustainability or climate tech. And here, impact strategy is pretty straightforward and simple. All you have to do is just think about how your product is advancing impact, how you can communicate that and scale that over time and communicate that to your investors. The second tier is if your product indirectly advances the SDGs. A great example of that is agriculture businesses or transportation or fintech. And the slides have a few examples of how a fintech company can incorporate impact strategy at the center of its business operations to advance the SDGs and therefore increase in its success over time. The third tier is all tech products and all tech companies. So you may ask me how a SaaS product for enterprise can be labeled as an AI for good or tech for good startup. It absolutely can if it chooses to incorporate ESG or CSR commitments within the company itself or if it adapts some of its products. An example of that is the Microsoft business. So I was the PMM for Microsoft 365. That's a product used, M365 is Office and Word and PowerPoint and all of the key tools that you use that belong to Microsoft, that's M365. The education business product team, which I was on, adapted every one of these products to the education market. So for example, because our purpose was to advance equity in education, meaning we cared about the impact of our products on the students and teachers in the classroom, and we wanted to include students with learning differences and to improve their learning experience and their trajectory after graduating, the product suite changed for students in the classroom. We have products like Reflect, which helps teachers keep track of students' emotional experiences in the classroom and think about all of the diverse learners in the classroom. Products like Reading Coach and Math Coach, these are embedded within M365's tools. That's a way that a traditional technology business could incorporate impact in its operations and product design. So again, this is the first tier, right? Examples include Khan Academy, Zipline, healthcare products. The second tier is products that are indirectly tied to the SDGs, but they adapt their product or operations to directly tie to the SDGs. And the third is, like I just mentioned, the Microsoft example, and many, many other companies doing exactly the same. So why should you incorporate impact strategy into your business? Because it's better for business. And data backs this up. Consumers are more likely to choose your product or brand because they believe your product makes the world a better place. It's backed by data. People want to work for good causes. They want to feel like their day-to-day life and their time 9 to 5 every day is making the world a better place. So incorporating impact strategy at the core of your operations is going to increase your employee retention and your ability to attract top talent and much, much more. These are old slides. So let's talk about investing or how you could fund or finance your startup. So we know there are 2 tiers for investing, right? There's traditional investors and there's impact investors. Traditional investors will evaluate your startup, and we all know this based on market potential, problem, like clear problem definition, solution that's clearly mapped to the problem, the qualification and ability to execute by the founding team, your tech moat, your competitive advantage, your data moat, the fact that your product will not be replaced by competitors over time, and so much more, right? Whereas impact investors use all of this criteria in addition to 1 or 2 impact metrics, like your ability to advance 1 or more of the SDGs, potentially also a diversity metric. They support minority founders or underrepresented founders. But there is a growing trend of convergence of criteria, meaning investors, many of whom I've spoken to, that care about impact, they don't prioritize it when evaluating startups, but they certainly will prioritize investing in a startup that is impactful and can also promise exponential returns. The impact investment market is a $1.571 trillion market by the end of 2024, and you have many, many different types of impact investors that you could target. We're actually about to launch like a list of 300 plus impact investors on our website, so be on the lookout for that. But beyond impact investing, there are many, many investors who may choose to invest in an AI for good startup. So the benefits here of choosing to be an AI for good startup include increased public trust, potentially faster user adoption, partnership opportunities you would not have access to if you did not incorporate impact strategy from the start, and so much more. So these are a few success stories of tech startups that are advanced or achieving both exponential returns and impact. Blue Vision Labs is one of them. They were able to, this is not in a complete slide, it's not the latest version, I apologize, but some examples here include Blue Vision Labs, Impossible Foods, Cirrus Imaging. Common denominators, they raised millions and millions of dollars in funding. They are reporting very, very high returns that are exponentially increasing over time. Some of them have already been bought by other companies or acquired, so they've exited successfully. So this next step, I'm going to invite Dr. Ahmad Rushdi to the stage, who will talk to you about benchmarking for ethical AI development. Oh, sorry.
No worries. Clicker. No worries. This one. Thanks, Nabila, and same apologies for the weird-looking slide. This was supposed to be a more complete slide. But a quick intro of myself. My name is Ahmad Rushdi. I work at Stanford University at the Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, in short, HAI. I do a research science role and a senior manager of research collaborations role, where I manage partnerships around the research problems between different Stanford departments and around 15 of our affiliate members that vary all the way from Google, IBM, all the way to Pepsi, Louis Vuitton, SAP. Many of these affiliates are here today. And as part of this, we see a lot of questions raised around how to implement AI responsibly and ethically across the spectrum, all the way from upstream research, all the way to downstream deployment to real-world applications and business solutions. And these questions, as Nabila highlighted, are very important to address early enough if you want to maintain your customer base, because mistakes can be very, very costly. One thing that I want to get out of today's presentation is to say, do not wait until you have your product finalized, or do not wait until you are about to hit the market, even with an MVP, to integrate human-centered AI principles or talk to people beyond your core set of developers. The design phase should have people from different backgrounds, people who can impact your decisions about different humans in different venues, not just the end user, but all kinds of stakeholders that will be part of your ecosystem. The decision making about the design, but also about the infrastructure that you build, will all be impacted and go beyond the socially beneficial applications. That should be the point I'm trying to make is to go beyond the social impact into the design impact. Your design has to be for the best ROI, as human-centered and as inclusive of different groups as possible. One way to do that is through continuous benchmarking, because what you build today might not have a reference point for assessment. You are building a new product that will manage to be a new robot that will move things from this point to that point, and there is no reference point of what is a good design versus not. So for that, there has to be community conversations, research conversations, industry and research conversations, where we find out what good benchmarks are. And benchmarks do not have to be only data sets, as we immediately envision. They can be a variety of things. They can include data sets, they can include metrics. What are the right metrics for different purposes? We classically think accuracy is the ultimate metric of success for any machine learning model, which is good. But now, as we think about foundation models and large language models more holistically, and multimodal models, things things have to be more holistic. We need to think about different metrics of impact, and that impact can be, as we think, socially, but also business, as Nabila highlighted. We need to think of these metrics and how they connect from the design phase all the way to the end user and the implementation. We also need to have better red teaming. Red teaming basically means we are all rushing into catching the time to market. This is a standard process for every founder, for every big tech, for every company, but there has to be a process for pre-release evaluation. There has to be a red team that sits together and says, I want to catch the market, but I also want to catch it responsibly. To catch the market responsibly, we need to have check boxes. There are things that are very obvious and easy to think about when we say the ethics of language models. We want to make sure that we have a language model that does not offend people, or that does not hallucinate, or does not get into ethical dilemmas. These are obvious and easy, and there are very standard red teaming processes for them. But as we consider new business cases, new implementations of existing business use cases, we need to be more open to have red teams that are diverse and good at what they do, and integrating them early in the design phase is as important as the process of red teaming. Diversity, as I mentioned, is key to that, including people from the social sciences side, from the ethics side. Even if the early design does not seem to have an immediate impact on humans, there is a very common problem that happens with AI nowadays, which is dual use. You build something for good, and the same exact algorithms can be developed for something that is not as good. You build AI that will help discover new drugs, new techniques for composition of molecules. This is great for drug discovery, but it can also be fantastic for weapon discovery. Some basic concept and principles on how to do that. How do we translate this into action? Understanding what a human-centered design is, and understanding what the right metrics are for quantifying success. Are we looking only at accuracy of a model to make sure that it's giving us what we need? But there are things where accuracy is not even the right metric. When I say summarize this PDF for me, or go retrieve information from a million PDF and give me one final summary, what is right and what is wrong, there is no exact ground truth that can help us assess accuracy. So in this case, we need to have more metrics, more holistic approaches to understanding whether our models and our AI techniques are performing well or not. This goes into fairness, where we have to have representative data sets, into interpretability, when we have to have good models and good end goals to assess, and we need to focus on the user, because for interpretability, what makes a good interpretation for an end user might be different for a different end user. So we need to have a UI UX mindset when we early in the design phase, with a focus on what the user will actually see and whether it will be beneficial to them or not. I have seen multiple times in different industries, varying from energy to defense, where I worked before, where you develop something super fancy, super clean, easy on the eye, but you take it to the end user and they say, I don't care about this. This is not something that will augment my decision making, because that is not how I think about the problem. You need to give me a clear interpretation of why the model made that recommendation, or otherwise I cannot connect and I cannot build a trust between me and the model. So this is not only an essential component after the product is built, it has to be thought of very early in the design phase. And the same goes for privacy and safety, where we need to think about what are the potential issues that might happen if we are not paying enough attention to privacy considerations. What are the potential threats? You can't wait until you build the design and you are completely done, and then, okay, who might be able to reverse engineer this part of my model or this part of my system? If you integrated these components and thought about them more holistically, not only using your developers, but also using a larger team of people who will be including users, potential users, that will give you an advantage in building a system that actually works, and you would not have to reiterate and build version 2, version 3, or patch the system so fast after it was released. just for the sake of time, I'm gonna, sorry again, old slide, but I'm trying to remember. So in this slide, wanted to highlight one point. So Nabila mentioned there are situations where you will succeed if you are doing this. I want to mention a few situations where you will not succeed if you don't do that. So these are all failure situations. And most of them are things you will be familiar with. Just apologize for the font is super small, so don't spend your energy cells trying to read them. But in short, in general practices, there are always situations where policing, as an example, that is based on AI to frame or to put people in certain, targets based on historical data. There are always situations where you will go totally wrong if you are not training your model based on the proper data sets. The same for fairness, very common story was a company that used an AI-powered recruitment system to scan resumes, and there was a huge bias. Again, it's an implicit bias, not based on an explicit mention of a word. It was based on association with clubs at school. So let's say somebody led their chess club at school or the women's chess club at school. So you start to see implicit biases that these models are developing over time, and if we are not paying enough attention to that, you get into situations where you start to lose your trust. And I think for founders, and looks like many of you are here are founders, it's very important to keep an eye on the trust, the user trust and the public trust. They are equally important in the founder phase, in the startup phase. They might change weights as you grow, but I think in a startup phase, you need to keep an eye on both. Common problems happened with detecting diabetes when no clear clarification or pixel associations were made. And when they tested that model in a different country, the clinicians were not able to use these models because they could not, as I mentioned, make any associations between what they know as a reason for the diagnosis versus what the model has done. And having that interpretability aspects, explainability aspects associated with your model, associated with your system early enough makes it much easier for your system to be used. Privacy. Everybody will know the stories of facial recognition systems, and for safety, everybody will know the stories about self-driving cars. So I'm going to skip these two. For the sake of time, I'm going to get back to the call of action.
I'm scared to see which slides are after this, but oh, thank God. Okay, it's somewhat working. It's semi-working. So the first call to action is I wanted to introduce the AI for Good Institute to everyone. This is a unique training program for aspiring startup founders who want to learn how to start an AI startup that is successful, financially viable, and impactful. Our curriculum includes 3 key pillars. The first one is technical product development. So that means how to build a product from idea to MVP. We also work with non-technical founders because we help you use or get to know how to use non-coding or low-code tools. The second pillar is business and startup innovation. So that curriculum includes idea validation, design thinking, market, value proposition, go-to-market strategy, finance, valuations, unit economics, and impact strategy. And the third pillar includes how to build an impact strategy and incorporate it in your startup, ethical AI development, and human-centered AI. The next program is running from 9 to 30 June 2025. Please go to that QR code, phones out, visit our website and learn more. We also have a series of in-person events happening. So the next one is an AI for Good networking event on January 30th in San Francisco. Please come to that event. It's free. We're going to welcome founders who have AI for Good startups and want to pitch them, investors, and just community members. Awesome. And finally, and Dr. Rushdi, please come back on stage. Please come back. We are working on a research paper, and the title is The Future of Tech and AI Investing, the Search for Exponential Returns and Impact. And we're inviting every investor in the room to please scan that QR code now, please. And if you're interested, join the research paper. So there's a qualitative and quantitative aspect to this research paper. The quantitative aspect is just a 5-minute survey. If you're interested in just filling that out, you will help us greatly. We're interviewing or surveying at least 100 traditional and impact investors and the founders within their portfolios or the startups in their portfolio that they believe align with this ideology, right? Scaling returns and impact. And the qualitative piece is it's a 30 to 45-minute interview. And in this, we're going to ask about your fund's investment thesis in AI, as well as your personal perspective or personal views on where AI investment is going, the trends, your predictions, etc. And we will have due recognition for anyone who joins this paper, especially the ones that join the qualitative research component. And any founders or tech enthusiasts in the room, please scan this QR code to join our community of founders. I asked you to take out your phone 100 times, I know. And please come to us afterwards with any questions, or if we want to take questions now. Any questions in the room? Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.